So I was going to do a video on Led Zeppelin 4, which I might do later. And then I realized I've never really like rated the Led Zeppelin records. I really talked about Led Zeppelin much at all on here. So that'll come at some point. But I started thinking about a more interesting story to me and a fun one, which is the time that I got fired from a job for playing Led Zeppelin too loud. So I thought I would share that story instead of the big ranking of the Zeppelin records or whatever, or my journey with Led Zeppelin. But I'll share the journey a little bit shortly, the concise version rather. When I was probably 13, I think, 12, 13, I bought Led Zeppelin 4 on cassette, and it didn't do a whole lot for me. I liked it, but it didn't do a whole lot for me. It wasn't until I met my friend Mike when I was about 14, and we were going on a ski trip to Colorado, and we started hanging out because we realized we're like the two coolest people there or whatever, through our church group or whatever, that we were like, yeah, we could hang out, like let's have fun. And yeah, he's a great guy. We went to a couple shows together. I think he's responsible for getting me started smoking cigarettes for a number of years, and he kind of introduced me to Led Zeppelin beyond Led Zeppelin 4. And, he did it by just slowly letting me borrow tapes. And pretty soon I had them all, or I bought my own versions of them, or got them through record clubs. And that's kind of another story. I'll tell that in fuller detail when I don't know, do my big Led Zeppelin video at some point. But as far as this story goes, I was 15 and I was looking for a job. In where I lived, you could start working when you were 14. So I already had a couple jobs, to keep up with my music habit. And I ended up working at this ice cream shop. I walked by it. It was in a mall near me. This mall was like walking distance. It was like maybe 5-6 blocks away, if that. And, super convenient. It was on the third floor of the mall, this ice cream shop, where there were like 2 or 3. At one point, there were 3 different record stores. There was a poster shop I like to go into, and then there was the arcade, which I never really got into games, but the cool people tended to be there that also went to the record stores and the poster shop. And I noticed this, was walking around once on the third floor, and kind of hidden away and almost in the corner of the mall was this ice cream shop. And I noticed that they were hiring and I needed a job. And I went in there and I talked to this old couple, and I think they hired me on the spot. Like, when can you start? And they were super sweet, really nice. And I started, and I primarily worked on the weekends. I remember telling some friends about it. Friends were coming in to visit me. And I know, like, they did a little bit more than just ice cream. They had like lunches. I think a lot of it was like cold cut sandwiches, maybe, or maybe they had a panini grill or something like that. I think they did, but there were no like, deep fryers or hot grills or anything like that going on back there. But it was a pretty cool experience. And then they asked me at some point if I wanted to work nights, and it was like 5 to 9. It was really close. My parents were okay with it. And so I started working at nights, and it wasn't that much longer once I started working at nights that I realized they needed help, or maybe they told me, hey, do you have anybody that you could recommend to get a job here to help you out? And I was like, sure. And I started getting friends hired, or friends of friends, some people I didn't know super well, but they expressed interest and I got them hired. But pretty soon there's like a group of, I don't know, 4 or 5 of us hanging out at a back table in this ice cream shop regularly. And maybe 2 of us or 3 of us worked there, and the rest were just kind of friends coming to hang out because it was another place to hang out in the mall. And we had a little tape deck behind the mall that was existing. And I remember this friend of mine, I think the one that got me hired, maybe, or she was definitely the first person that I worked with there. She had played the Clash's record, Combat Rock. So it was the first time I ever heard that record. I had a little bit of a crush on her. But I don't remember her working at night very often. I think she was still on the day shift. And we were working at night. We were sitting at this back table, smoking cigarettes, talking about music, and putting in multiple tapes of our bands that we were into at the time into the cassette player that was behind the counter of the ice cream shop. And a lot of these tapes, I can remember quite distinctly, a couple of them anyway. One was David Lee Roth's new record, Skyscraper, had come out. I think it was brand new, and I was trying to like it. I kind of couldn't get into it that much. And I remember there was an Anthrax record back there. I remember Master of Puppets being back there at one point. and Led Zeppelin 2, and I think REM records and things we were into, but there were some that we just kind of left there, and I think Led Zeppelin 2 might have been one that was just always kind of there. And we'd play it, and I had gotten into Led Zeppelin, like I said, by that point, and 2 was one of my favorites, or one that I always felt just sounded great whenever I played it. So, we were playing that fairly often. Friends would come in, I don't think we charged them half the times, gave them ice cream. Whenever a customer ordered, we were like kind of annoyed, who's going to get up and help them? It's just ridiculous sitting at this back table. And whenever they ordered like a shake or a malt, we'd make extra so that we had some to eat, or it was like a free for all. And then I think management started noticing, especially when they hired this like hothead. She was like, I don't know, this little pistol. She's like 5'2", red hair. Her name was Tina. She didn't like any of us. She clearly did not like me. And she was probably hired to sort of figure out what was going on. I don't think we're ever like short on the till or anything, but they notice little things like whenever they go to get a fresh can of whipped cream to put on like a chocolate sundae, that it was always flat. And probably eventually they realized that we kind of like the nitrous oxide in those, and we're taking advantage of the whipped cream situation at the back table, as well as smoking cigarettes and drinking free soda and playing music way too loud. So one day she comes in and she's like, I have to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. And I always hated it whenever I had to work with her. She just was not fun at all. But fortunately, our paths did not overlap, or unfortunately, for too long. She called me in and she's like, I want you to sit down. I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay. And she's like, I'm going to have to let you go. And I'm like, why? And she's like, you were playing Led Zeppelin too loud. Now, instead of like normally being, I'm sorry, or like, I didn't realize it was too loud or whatever, I was like, what's wrong with Led Zeppelin? like I was going to challenge her, like, why don't you like, she's like, Todd, I don't like Led Zeppelin. Some people don't like Led Zeppelin, and it was too loud. I'm like, how can you not like Led Zeppelin? Some became a big thing, like, I can't believe you don't like Led Zeppelin. Holy crap. You don't like Led Zeppelin? And she just seemed to get like more pissed. And then I think eventually I kind of got it, like, oh, okay, this is a little bit more serious. And I remember asking her, like, would you put in a good reference for me, if somebody calls? And she's like, well, I suppose I can lie a little bit. But yeah, that was the end of my ice cream career. Probably one of my favorite jobs ever. Your friends are there. You're playing rock and roll. You're talking about it. You're smoking cigarettes. You're getting high on nitrous oxide. Yeah. But it's no wonder that it didn't last very long. But that's what I think of a lot of times when I pick out Led Zeppelin 2, because Led Zeppelin 2 was the record that was there, and the one that I played the most at the time. So thought I would share this funny story. It's one of my favorite ones to tell, although sometimes I forget all about it. But yeah, like I said, usually when I pull out Led Zeppelin 2, it kind of comes back to me. So anyway, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed.